What's good? Merry Christmas to all y'all out there. You know, as promised, Fabulous with the Young OG project. Man, I can say it's dope, but I'm disappointed. Like I said on Twitter, man, this shit should have been a soul tape for it. You know, it had the feel of an album, but then yet and still it had the feel of a fucking mixtape. 11 tracks, features. You got Rich Homie Quan, Tish Hyman, Chris Brown, French Montana, Fabolous, Kevin Hart, Abir, Harani, if that's how you pronounce it. And I guess this was some type of rendition of him having the 90s vibe of the project, and him saying that he went into this project working on Loso's Way 2, which has been 5 years since he released the project. And by doing this project, he came out with these soulful songs, a collective that became his own project in one. He stated numerous times he wasn't doing another soul tape. He was just keeping it, you know, a trilogy, which he's done with There's No Competition, and then you got the soul tape series. But I still feel like this shit should have been a mixtape. It could have been called the Young OG the mixtape, because you seen how he dropped the song off Soul Tape 3, Young OG, and then yet you name your title, I mean your album title that, but it's on iTunes, but it sounds like a mixtape, but we gotta pay for it. Anyway, let's get into it. First track that he released, Lituation. That shit dope though, and it got a video to it. You know, kind of got that King of New York theme, but yet it still he's saying that he's one of the King of New York. He's not the King of New York, whatever that means. But you know, the beat was crazy. Of course, he got ill bars. You know, that sample was dope. His flow was off the chain, and he spoke some real life shit on there. We already know how Fab give it up, so we ain't gotta go there. You know, that record get 3 checks. It's dope as shit. Moving on to where I got confused. Number 2, We Good featuring Rich Homie Quan. Now I'm listening to this shit like, what the fuck is this? The hook, I don't give a shit what nobody say. It's weak as fuck. He sounded like Drake. Like I got a Drake vibe from that song. You know, Fab Versus was dope, but I still got like a Drake vibe. His bars was dope as shit too. And it's just like, why do I feel a Drake vibe? You know, so that song, I'm listening to it and I'm like, maybe it can grow on me, and I try to listen to it again. That song is just okay. You know, that could have been left off. Moving on to number 3, and this is where it picks back up. This song get 3 checks. It's called All Good. It got the Biggie excerpt in there. He flipped Biggie beat, and that's pretty dope. You know, I love the mellow beat. The sample was great. Everything about this record was awesome, from the hook to his bars to his lyrics to his flow. And I'm like, okay, now we back on track. You know, this should have been number 2, and we should have never got We Good. And then we go on to number 4, You Made Me, another great record featuring Tish Hyman, where the subject matter is awesome. You get where he's coming from, that sample, that beat, and this is where I start to feel like, okay, this still should have been Soul Tape 4. You know, his bars was just crazy on that song. And then we hit another brick wall with She Wildin' featuring Chris Brown, where he flipped the Uchi Wally beat. I don't even think people fucked with that song when it came out. I remember being at Job Corps when that shit came out, and people was going nuts over it. I always thought that was a whack song. And I'm like, what the fuck is this nigga doing? This shit is crazy. Moving on to number 6, Ball Drop. And then it got the countdown from 1989 going into 1990. And I thought that was dope. That song get 3 checks featuring French Montana. I love the background samples. I thought the beat itself was crazy. The hook was just on some real shit. Like, you know, once the ball drop kicked these hoes to the curb or whatever, I thought Fab Flow was smooth. You know, he spoke some real shit in there and had some double entendre metaphor, dope ass ill bars. And I'm like, yes, this is what I'm saying. This is Fab. Moving on to number 7, Bitch Bounce. Yet again, I got a Drake vibe, and I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? Then it get really weird. The beat is dark as hell, and I'm like loving it. And then the hook kick in, and I'm like, all right, that's kind of funny. You know, his flow is ill, and then he hit you with the auto tune. I'm like, what the fuck is this? You know, and then it come towards the end, it's like that chopped and screwed shit. I'm like, yo, I'm totally fucking confused by this. You know, his bars was crazy, his lyrics was dope, but that song had me like, all right, I guess I get it. Then we go on to number 8, Rapping Sex. Definitely got some dope ad libs. You definitely get a 90s vibe from there. It's basically a sexual song. The beat was hard as shit. I like his flow. Everything about it was dope. He even sang a little bit that melodic hook, and I was like, all right, it ain't that bad, but you know, I had to listen to it again. But the instruments on this was kind of trippy in a sense, and I was like, not bad, you know. Going to number 9, going for the winner featuring Fabolous, where he flipped the Nas. I think that's the Represent beat. Not the illest of songs, but it's just good enough to pass. And I thought the beat was mellow. His bars was crazy. I like his flow matched with his lyrics, and the hook was good, but at the same time, it's just like that barely skated over. Moving on to number 10, Cinnamon Apple. Now, first when he talked about this song, I was like, why is everybody going crazy over this shit? This shit is fucking crazy. This is the fucking YouTube video where dude was crying over his girl, she cheated or some shit. So he took that and flipped it. It's a relatable subject the way he turned it into his own. It reminded me of J. Cole Wet Dreams, don't know why, featuring Kevin Hart, but at the same time it's like he couldn't get that sample from YouTube, so he had Kevin Hart come in and do the part that the dude did on YouTube that Fab was trying to sample. I thought the beat was insane though, straight up. The storytelling was awesome. It's just about him when he was in elementary school before the drug dealing days, meeting a chick, he get played or she fuck with somebody else, he moves on, blah blah blah, you know. And it's like, all right, that was cool. The hook was whatever, and his lyrics, he was honest. You can't say it's fake. It's a story about him, a real story. And I'm like, all right, Fab, that was cool, but what the fuck was that? And then the last track, Young OG Part 2, featuring Abir Harani, and it's like, what the fuck? The beat is twisted a little bit. It's melodic, you know, but I'm like, yo, this is the first verse from the original song. So I'm like, this nigga cheating us, you know. And then get into the hook. I'm like, okay, the soulfulness of that. And he's spitting some deep lyrics, but then he get to the second verse, which is about his son, and then I'm like, okay, now there we go. That's the Fab that I know. His bars was on point, his flow was nice, and I think that's a great way to end the project. But he definitely has some what the fuck moments in his project, and I'm like, yo, this shit is crazy. But overall, I mean, it was cool for what it was. I give it 8.5 out of 10 because I do feel like the We Good record can kind of grow on me, but that Chris Brown record is garbage. I'm not fucking with it. You know what I mean? I'll say I like 10 out the 11 joints. You know, production about 8.5 out of 10. It wasn't the best project, but at the same time, it definitely wasn't worth the hype. I still feel like he should have just said fuck it, gave us a mixtape, and brought that into 2015 and worked on Loso's Way too. I mean, it's been 5 years, but then we understand why it took so long because of the label situation that he's been in. I thought it was Def Jam, but I guess it's not. I guess it's Rock Nation, but I'm still confused. What was the limbo part? But he still, like he said, was giving us mixtapes, but still it's like an album. Like, nigga, like, come on. And then it's just like his interviews kind of make sense, but then they don't because he still, I think he goes around a lot of questions and shit like that. But he is one of the most underrated rappers, you know, of our generation. I grew up on Fab, you know, 2001, his debut album came out with Jay-Z, Blueprint album. I've been a fan of him since then. Everybody wore throwbacks because of him. Let's keep it real. He was the originator of a lot of shit, a lot of swag, a lot of like slang and shit like that. But at the same time, it's just like, you can't just say this is steak and this shit tastes like a fucking, you know what I mean, pork chop. Because it's just like, I get it, but it just was too much hype surrounding this project, you know. And I just feel like being a Fabolous fan for so many years, and I bought every album. I think the only album I don't own is his debut album, but every album after that I own. And being a supporter of him, I don't really like shit like this where it's like, okay, you've given us some shit, but this should have been for free, straight up. Like, I don't get why you force feeding us, but I'm not bashing it. I'm just being honest. But the Young OG project, you give it a couple more spins, throw some Dre beats on and zone out to it. It's definitely dope. You know, I don't regret buying it, but I definitely feel like he even hinted that Def Jam or whatever label might press it up in physical copies. I think if he does that, he needs to add more songs to it. You know, switch it up a little bit, just like he did with There's No Competition 2 when it came out in stores, and I also bought that on iTunes as well. That shit was dope. I just feel like he should give the fans something more. You know what I mean? I definitely feel like at least a couple bonus tracks or some shit, because it's like, this shit damn near was a mixtape. If you take the Rich Homie Quan song, the Chris Brown song, the French Montana song, and you take the first song, Lituations, those are songs for an album. Everything else is a mixtape vibe, you know. So out of 11 songs, 5 of them feel like an album, the rest feel like a mixtape. That's just me, but y'all let me know what y'all think. Yeah, yeah. I don't know what else to say about this album, but it didn't make my top 10 list. Put it like that. You know, I'm sorry, Fab, but I the expectation was there, and you let me down, similar to Wale, and it's like I don't know what to say. But at this point, I'm rambling. Happy New Year's to y'all. Merry Christmas, and I hope y'all enjoy the review. Let me know what you think. 1.